Hello, everyone. Dr. Allen here. Hope you're having a great week. Just to kind of get a summary of where we're at, because last week I know I kind of just gave you a little break from me, but I don't know why I find that funny, but I do. Um, but I know we were looking at new technology, and you had to do a little review last week. I should hopefully, those will be due obviously on Sunday. I'm recording this on Saturday, is it the 5th? The 5th. Everything before that, I should hopefully have up to date sometime Sunday, the 6th, in terms of everything up to that new tech review. So thanks for bearing with me. It's been just busy with advising, so I just appreciate it. So with that being said, this week's actually pretty straightforward. Let me get everything cleaned up to make sure we're all on the same page. This week, let's go to the syllabus as always. We're going to scroll on down to the week. Couple, actually, I think fun assignments that are coming up. At least useful assignments. Uh, anyway, this week we're going to do lesson planning with technology. It's just a brainstorming chart in terms of lesson planning. I'm going to show you a sample, and kind of explain what I want with it. Just a few things. One, this is not a full-blown lesson plan, and one reason it is not is we have everyone's kind of at a different place in here. Some people have not junctured if you're taking a 380, but some people have junctured. So everyone's lesson planning skill set might be a little different places. So this is a way for me to kind of give everyone the opportunity to start thinking about how you would utilize this without going too far down the road if you haven't had your methodology classes yet, or Ped 1 or Ped 2, or haven't been in the field a whole lot. So, with all that being said, let's go down here and I'll show you what's going on. When I say down here, we're going to scroll on down. Do. All right. So, here's the thing. I'll have the weekly. This is last year's, so I'm not going to subject you to that. But let me pull the sample up first. If you look here, this is what you're going to do. You're going to get a template. It's just going to be a Word template. And what you have to do is you have to pick a standard. This is one that was picked by someone that was related to third grade and teaching Native American history. That is a state standard. I will have the West Virginia state standards posted. I believe I sent them out for every discipline, but you're going to need to pick one, and you're going to basically brainstorm a unit with four different lessons in it. And each lesson has to have a little different technology. So, for example, that's the overall standard that they're using. But for lesson one, as you look here, you're gonna come up with a learning objective. If you remember way back, I had that little lesson plan or lesson or that objective lesson objector generator. Uh, that is fine if you want to use that to kind of come up with your objectives. I will pull that back up real quick just to show you before when we finish up here. But um, you're going to put your objective in there for lesson one, and then you're going to give a little summary of what the activity the students are going to do. You need to have one technology in this, like this activity or in this procedures, and explain how you're going to use it. So this person was going to use Edpuzzle, and they talked about how they would use Edpuzzle. You're going to have different lessons here. You need to make sure that you use different technologies within each lesson. Now, I'll explain that in more detail in a second. But for example, this person could have Edpuzzle in lesson two, but they better have another technology in there to get full credit. So I need to see a different technology in each lesson. Will you use that much technology in this? Maybe not, but for the purposes of this, I want to see it. So you got to give a summary. Then you're going to talk about how you're going to use the technology. You need to list some 21st century skills. If you remember, those were like critical thinking, collaboration, communication. Again, I will have those posted. You can just list them. That's fine. You don't have to write a long thing out. The big part that you need to summarize is right here and right here. And I want you to think about how you're going to do your assessment. You can just talk about formative and summative assessment. I understand, again, if you haven't had methodology, the mapping out might not be succinct quite like you're envisioning. I don't, I'm going to be careful how I say this. I want you to just think about how you would assess this lesson. I think it's something important to think about. especially down the road when you get to EdTPA and things like that. So just kind of think about how you're going to assess it. Just describe it. That's lesson one. Lesson two is the exact same thing on the template, but as you can see, this person was going to use Nearpod in the second lesson. So that's a different technology. Boom. And then they have it. Then in the third lesson, they used Padlet. Boom. And they're listing all their communications, collaborations, and things like that. And I said four. I actually do make the fourth lesson optional. So if you want to do it, that's fine. You'll laugh. Some people like to do the whole thing out because they're out in the field. And I did say four, but three is fine. And I will repeat that. Three is fine if you do three lessons. You do have to give a little overview here. Now, here's a couple of other things. Again, three different texts. You're going to submit this. You want to add a little bit of detail in, the explanation of technology and the summary. You can list the other ones, and as you can see, I like again how they did formative and summative on there. The other thing I didn't really highlight too much or specify, but I want to make sure we're on the same page. I would really like these lessons to be kind of envisioned as a unit. So what I mean is I teach social studies, and we're on the Reformation, and we're talking about the Reformation. So probably lesson one might be on Martin Luther, and the students might do an ed puzzle that's related to Martin Luther. Lesson two might be on John Calvin, and John Calvin's might be a Nearpod. And lesson three might be on Henry VIII, and that might be a Padlet, and maybe the Padlet's on all of his wives or something like that. I don't know, but hopefully you get the point. So those are all fall under the umbrella of the Reformation, but they're three different lessons. So that's what you need to do. Now you're probably saying, "Hey, that's great. Where do I get this template?" It is right here. Boom. You can download it. It's there. You should be able to. It should be in Word, and you should be able to just download it and go right at it. Let me make sure it downloads as a Word document. It is. I will make sure that it is on there. And if it's not, it looks like it's downloading as a PDF. I'll make sure the Word document version is up. I do like to usually click that, and I'm glad I did. And of course, I think I may have accidentally just went right out of my Brightspace spot. So let's go right back in. And I am back. I'm operating at my home base, as in home, today. So I'm a little off on how to use the computer. I'm using my Mac, and I'm so used to having multiple screens. Let's go ahead and go down here and go back in there. And as you can see, everything's there. That sample is up if you need it. There's the link. There is a link to West Virginia State Standards if you need it. I sent those out on the announcement board. I'll make sure they're still up before I open this unit up. There's 21st Century Skills if you need to see them again. Those you can list. These are your C's and things like that, as you can see. Boom. You need to have some of those that are in your lesson. I'd like to just see them. Thank you, pop-up. Don't need to worry about tier maker. That was something I'll make sure that is off there. But if you look here, this was that link I was telling you about objective generator. This is how to write one. I think sometimes it can get a little complex. Let's do this. Objective generator. I thought I had sent this to everyone, but just in case I didn't, let's check a look. Again, I know there's a lot. I know, like in elementary, you do a big breakdown on how to write objectives. That is awesome. But for example, let's just do this. Who is the learner? Describe your audience. I'm just going to put 10th grade class. Next, will recognize. And you can see there's different ones. Let's do amplifies. As you can see, you click there. We'll contrast and point out. I like point out. We'll point. Nah, I like contrast. Let's go with that. You can see that's there. Next, the history of the Reformation. We should capitalize that. by viewing an Edpuzzle Q in a video. Boom. As you can see, 10th grade class will be able to contrast the history of the Reformation by viewing an Edpuzzle Q&A video. That contrast, I kept getting stuck on that. Let's do a new one. I think that's a little clunky. So let's do 10th grade class. Let's do understanding. Will or remembering. We'll just do remembering. Will identify, of course, the classic. Identify key aspects of the Reformation. How about this? Key aspects of Luther's contributions to the Reformation by completing an Nearpod. And boom, there you go. And you can copy that. That's your objective generator. That is there if you want it. You do not need to use it. I put it there. Again, I know we, as faculty, I think we all approach how to write objectives differently. We're trying to get on the same page. Let me rephrase that. I don't want to say it that way. I think we all have the same goals in mind. Sometimes there's different ways we approach it. So to limit any confusion, I'm fine with you using the objective generator or using that. I'm pretty open to how you construct your objective, I guess is what I'm trying to say. With that being said, that's the only assignment this week. So again, you need to submit something to me that looks like this. And you got to have 3 technologies, and they got to be 3 different technologies. Again, you can have some repeats, and I did not add this in here, so I'm going to make sure I say it. I'm not going to count. I don't want PowerPoint. PowerPoint's not going to count as a technology. Not that it isn't a technology. I want something that we've either used in this class, you've seen on another list, or you've seen out in the field. It doesn't necessarily have to be something that I've introduced you to in this class, but it's got to have a technology component. So if you say they're going to use Word, I'm not going to probably use that, or they're going to use their Chromebooks. I want something very, very specific. Actually, I caught myself. I almost forgot to mention that part. But yeah, and also even I'm not saying I wouldn't I probably won't even consider like they're going to go use the smart board. Smart boards are very cool. I want you to use something very, very specific that they can actually directly use on their Chromebooks and things like that, or take part in the class lesson, something to enhance the lesson a little bit. So I hope that's clear. But if you have any questions, you're welcome to email me. And that, my friends, is actually the week. So I will talk to you later and email me if you have any questions. Thank you very much. Bye.